It's your girl, Kenya Croom. I am the president and CEO of A Step to Freedom. We are interim housing provider in South Los Angeles, providing housing to both men and women who are justice involved. We are celebrating Second Chance Month, and I am just really excited to be here with both Celestial Scott and Betina McCadney, as these two women have some incredible stories to share. And in honor of Second Chance Month and Reentry Week, we want to highlight and make available resources to people who are justice involved. We want to remind them that they are not forgotten, that this community, the communities that they come from, need them, and more importantly, that their children need them and are resilient. To shine a light on the importance of reentry and the responsibility that we all have to understand why reentry matters and how to set communities and neighbors up for success. And I thought it important to have that conversation around parenting through incarceration. So, ladies, thank you for joining me. As I've already stated, we're gonna chit chat. We are just going to talk, and I hope to connect with people. I hope that this touches somebody and that they learn from our experiences. So welcome. Celeste, can I toss it to you to introduce yourself first, and then will you invite Betina to do the same?
Absolutely. My name is Celestial Scott. Would you like me to speak about my experience as well? Okay, so my name is Celestial Scott. I am the CEO and president and founder of From Hardship Los Angeles. I too offer interim and permanent housing for men and women in Los Angeles, many of those who are reentry clients, as well as those that may suffer mental health disabilities as well. I come from a background of a parent who was in and out of the system just for her own crimes, as well as heavy drug abuse, which till this day, at the age of 46, my mother is still an addict, as well as suffers from severe mental health issues and does go in and out of the system. I am also a reentry client myself. In 1996, was arrested for conspiracy to distribute and money laundering, and served a term of 4.5 years in both the state and federal prison. When I was arrested, I was 6 months pregnant and had my firstborn child in the system. It was a blessing that I did have both his father and grandmother to take him, so he did not get shuffled into, the actual system and, lost, or me have to fight to get him back. So I had a stable foundation for him. After doing the 4.5 years, first of all, let me say, having that child in prison was hard. I was in the county jail. Go ahead. I can't hear you.
Before you go too deep, hold on, because I want to come back. I want to come back to that, and I also want us to just dialogue too.
Okay.
But thank you for your intro.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna toss it to Betina to just introduce yourself, and then we're gonna go back to our experience.
So let me introduce her. And the reason I say that is because I just spoke about,
don't make me cry,
my time in the system. I had my son there. I spent 1 year in Los Angeles County Jail, formerly known as Civil Brand, and Betina was my partner. Betina was right there with me every day through the remainder of my pregnancy, down to the time that we sat on the bunk and timed those contractions before me going into labor. So Betina McCadney, you got the floor.
So, okay, I'm emotional because that was a very, very long time ago. I think it was at least 25 years ago. But
26 next week.
26 years ago. But I am Betina McCadney. I am a mother of 3 dynamic leaders. I am the CEO and founder of Umbrella Financial, Inc. We are a financial services company that used to be, it started out as a credit repair company because our people need that. We need financial stability, right? But what we have morphed into over the years of being in business is a way to help employers, add us to their benefits program and enroll their employees, their low and mid-level employees in financial literacy so that they can steward the money that they make and put them on a trajectory to earn more as they climb the ranks of the company or even go into business for themselves. And that's me.
Thank you. That is awesome. Oh my God, this is already too much. We just got into the introduction and we already got tears rolling. So Celeste, let me throw it back to you. Okay, so you told us you told us that Betina was your partner, but I want to know, how did y'all meet, and you were pregnant at the time? Betina, were you also pregnant at the time?
No, I had already had my I was 23 years old and I had already had my 3 children when I caught my case in 1996 as well.
Okay.
For robbery, armed robbery, kidnapping, the whole shebang.
Okay.
You got to take a sip of water, Kenya.
No, I need nope. I need a pen and paper so I don't forget, because although I have questions prepared, I want to flow from the conversation.
Okay.
And I don't want it to also either be just like a interview, so to speak, as much as I want it to be, there we go, a conversation. But I was already going from Celeste saying she was sitting on the bunk and counting down those contractions. And so keeping in mind the parenting aspect, when I think about my pregnancy and how I was like, what I envisioned for my child that was in my womb, I would like to hear what you were thinking for did you know you were having a boy? What were you thinking about his life? What were your goals for his life at that time? And you were sitting in a jail cell with a friend who was, what was that comfort level? Like all of that, like.
So I'm gonna go back to what your first question was, is how was that my partner? So Tina and I both found ourselves in there. We did not know each other prior to being there, but I think our connection was that we were both bougie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Y'all was like,
if you haven't picked up on, yeah.
We could both relate to each other versus what our surroundings were in that setting at that time. We had more in common than the other inmates that were there. Being there, of course, was traumatizing. It was like, oh my God. Naturally, I never even thought prior to going in that I was going to have my child in jail and what that was going to look like. One thing I did know is, because I knew that I was having a boy, but I also knew that he was going to be okay, in the fact of I knew that he was going home to his father and his grandmother. I knew that I had that solid foundation. I didn't worry about where he was going to go or if he was going to be taken care of. I didn't have that worry. And that was just because of the people that I knew he was going to. Wow. What his life was going to be like. I think the only thing that I worried about was him being attached to me. Was he going to love me? Was he going to take to me after me being away from him for so long? And that was a struggle, and has been, because I was blessed for him to go home to his dad and his nana, but his nana is his mama. He will throw me away for his nana. He will give me away for free for his nana. He loved me. But he went home first. His dad was away in college, so he went home first to his nana. And so his nana had him from straight out of that, incubator, because he had ended up in ICU, and she had him from day one. And so they have this bond that is, she thinks he's baby Jesus and he can't do any wrong. Wow. So to sum it up, I didn't have a worry of where he was going to go. or who was going to get him. I do still, as a parent, worry about him getting in trouble. Even though he's a good kid, I just feel like, oh my God, I've done enough time for everybody. I don't want you to take that path at all. So
Right. Thank you for sharing that. Betina, did
Mhm.
you already have children at that time, or
I
you have
did.
kids later?
So I got arrested. Actually, the reason I committed my crime was to kind of stabilize my life with my children. We were about to be evicted.
Mm,
And I was really looking at all of the things. I was out of options. Money wasn't coming in fast enough. We grew up in the hood, and I don't know if anybody really talks about how growing up in areas of poverty kind of desensitizes you to crime and
absolutely.
sometimes even other people's pain. And
Mhm.
so I was so desperate at that time that I had never, like broken the law before per se. I hadn't done anything of any magnitude. I was just a kid growing up in the hood. I had 3 kids by the time I was 21 years old, and I didn't have any. I wasn't that, college graduate that had all these great career options and things like that. So when I look at it now at 49 years old, when I look back, I didn't know my butt from a hole in the ground. I didn't really know how to balance a checkbook. Although we were materialistic, so when Celeste says we were bougie, we were very materialistic. We had a lot of high-end things and stuff like that because other people around us were committing crimes. They lived a lifestyle of crime, which is what made me feel like I could do this. And when I think about this, is something I wrote in my book that's coming out Tuesday, you guys, Avenue of Purpose.
Oh gosh, what?
I wrote this story in my book about how when I was planning this thing, it never entered my mind that I would get caught. So I was so caught up in a bout of cognitive tunneling. And if you don't know what cognitive tunneling is, best way I can describe it to you is if an airplane is going down and the pilot is only looking at the display but not looking out the window, because you cease to take in secondary information that helps you solve the one problem you're trying to solve. So getting caught, having to lose my kids and things like that, that stuff never entered my mind. I was just trying to solve for problem A, which was we need to keep this roof over our head, right? So I had the kids, I got arrested, and 5 months later, their dad died. Boom.
Oh my God. And shit, I gotta recover from that. I'm not even gonna lie. That took me out, because while Celeste has this network who she is knowing is going to care for her child, you don't. So who were your kids with? Did they have to go in the system?
They did not have to go in the system, thankfully. And part of me still doesn't know if it was a blessing or a curse, because not to diminish anyone else, because I did have help. But the very same situation that I was trying so desperately to escape was what my kids were thrust into when I was arrested, when I was taken away from them. So while I didn't have the resources, the skill set, the money mastery skills, while I didn't have any of the things that I needed to help them grow and, sustain a successful lifestyle, I was putting them in what I felt was a situation that was even more stark than my own.
Wow. And before I move on to the relationship, which I want to get to, I want to know, Celeste, what was your motivation for committing the crime that you committed? Survival.
Survival. I was pregnant. Didn't have my own apartment. I had wrecked my car. My mother was on drugs. My father was never present at that time. Hadn't been present, for years of my life. And I just knew that I needed to make some money. I knew that I had this kid coming and I needed to make something happen. And I was making the money. And so I was doing the crime. And what, in hindsight, was it worth it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it shaped me to who I am now, because I feel that if I had not gone away to prison, I probably wouldn't be the person that I am today, or as stable, or as driven.
In what way? How did that come about?
One, when I got out of prison, I got a job 60. I got out of prison June 2nd, 2000. June 8th, got a job and was working.
So jail caused you to grow up and be
It-
more responsible and
Mhm.
through that experience. Okay. I don't want to move us up too far ahead into that because I
Mhm.
want to know, what was parenting like? What was your interaction like with your child or children? I personally remember from the outside standing in long lines for hours to see my father.
Mhm.
I remember, going to the playground, and there were other kids. We played with kids, and it was fun. My brother said earlier on his interview, he was excited because he saw other kids with their dad, and he knew that at the end of this long ride and the end of this long wait, he would have that time just to be with his dad. So how often did you see your children, and what was that interaction like?
So initially, when I had Anthony, I didn't get to hold him. I did not hold him until 1 year later.
Mm,
Um, that was rough, naturally. It was, once I began to get those visits with him, it was hard for him to just kind of sit with me because he didn't really know me.
mm,
Now, they brought him because like I said, I spent a year at the county first. They brought him to see me. Saw him through
through
the
the glass.
glass,
Mm,
and but he didn't know who I was. And thank God I had his father and his grandmother, because they brought him to see me throughout my entire term,
mm,
wherever I was, from
mm,
LA out to Madera County, out to Arizona when I was in the feds. They always brought him. So initially, when I first got to hold him, he's squirming. When kids don't know you, they squirming, they trying to get down, they trying to go to who they know. And so it took a while for him to want to sit with me for a minute. And I'm getting to know him, and he's getting to know me. And so it was hard. It was very hard. Very.
mm. Betina, what was your experience?
Completely the opposite. I saw my kids 2 times in 7 years.
Mm. Did
Now,
you?
the
Mhm.
beauty in my situation is my kids were 3, 5, and 7 when I committed my crime. And so the older two knew me, that we had relationship, all of that. But my 3-year-old almost had no rec. She knew I was her mom. But as far as who I was, her having a memory and a relationship with me, she didn't recall that. So growing up, once I was released, 1 year to the date, they were at my mom's the entire time. So it wasn't like they bounced around, but she wasn't coming to prison. I was the biggest POS because you did what? Oh, girl, please, bye. I got to take care of these kids. I'm busy over here, right? And
Right.
so my time was spent building the life that I live now. And how was I going to relate to these children? How was I going to build this bridge of a relationship with my kids? How was I going to provide for them? And how was I going to make sure that this set of circumstances that I was currently experiencing was not going to be repeated with them?
I gotta pause there really quick, and I need y'all to talk about that a little bit. Firstly, really quick, Betina, how long were you in jail?
7 years total,
7 years.
including the county and the state prison.
Okay, so I'm just thinking of, from a mom's perspective, all the dreams that you have for your children. And that can get overwhelming, and I become anxious, and I'm not in jail, right? So I am wondering, from you being in prison, and not even having maybe access to your children as often, what, just take me to your mindset for a minute. Did you experience hopelessness? Did you have to just focus on yourself? Did you still have dreams and aspirations for your kids at that point? Or did how did you deal?
I was absolutely heartbroken.
Mm,
In that process, I was absolutely heartbroken because they were my world. They still are. My kids are 29, 31, and 33, and my entire universe revolves around. I'm getting married in a few months, and I'm like, am I cut out for this? Because my kids still, everything is still about them. I don't care how old they get. I don't care. So they were my universe. And so that separation, not having access, not having the support in my mind, like Celeste saw my kids more than I did. There was a time period where Celeste saw my kids more than I did. She made sure she made sure to visit them. She made sure to report to me because I just wasn't getting that kind of feedback. And what it boils down to was capacity. Like, I don't feel and I'm, again, not to tear anybody down because that's not what we're doing, but I don't feel that at that time, my mom had the capacity and the fortitude to do what it took to make sure to foster that relationship that was going to be so necessary when I come back to him, because it wasn't like I had a life sentence and wasn't coming home. It was going to be important that we had a relationship. So I did the best I could. I always wrote letters. I always sent them books. I let them in on what I had going on. And I just began during that time. I did have to at one point get to the realization that I can't live in here and out there because I would break. And in order to not break, I had to tether some of what was happening there so that I could build the structure and the scaffold of the life that I have now. And I had to focus on where I wanted to be and how I was going to get there and use every bit of energy and resources that I had to do that.
Got it. Celeste, you want to share on that at all?
I focused on living there, getting through what I was getting through. People always ask, like, how did you do it? You don't have a choice, because if they ain't letting you out, you're there.
Right.
So you get into your program and you get into, what it is you're doing and just getting those days by. Yes, every day. I remember I used to walk the track, especially when I was in Arizona. I walked the track every day, and I would just dream about what I was going to do with my son, what books I would read him, going places with him, doing things with him. I would dream about those things all the time. Like, I just can't wait. I just can't wait to be able to do that. And having the ability to see him and knowing that, his father and his grandmother made sure that they brought him to me, or that they showed him pictures and that they taught him who I was very comforting. But I still did have the worry of, was he gonna love me? That was like one of my main things. Like, is he gonna love me? I didn't worry about him, like I said, but I worried. I did worry. I dreamed about being with him, dreamed about doing stuff, but I worried about him loving me.
I think that's important. And I asked that question because I think when we're on the outside and we have a family member or a parent on the inside, we thinking about how hard it is for us oftentimes. Like, I wish my dad was here with me, or, especially in my case, our dad he spent 2 terms, I don't know what you would call it, in college. He went to
Yeah. That's what they tell kids.
Yeah, he went to college 2 times. So it's like, woe is me, why isn't he here? And sometimes you get a little bitter about that person and their decision. And oftentimes I know for a fact he did it for us. I know.
Right.
And I wanted you all to share what your driving, what your motivator was, because you were not bad people. You were not just committing crimes every day of your life or whatever, but there was a moment of desperation.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I'm sorry, guys. Being a child of a parent who was always in and out of jail, one thing that I always remember, the family used to lie and say, oh, she was out of town, or, initially she was out of town, or she was away, what were some of the things? Because she went in and out of rehabs too. it was always she was out of town, right? Until, you know, your cousins, they get to know, and they're like, you know, your mama in jail, you know, and then I was distraught. I never forget it. I was distraught, crying, go home.
Right.
My great grandmother, who was taking care of me at the time, like, my mom's in jail. Where is she? And so after that point, you know, at that stage, I was in elementary school. My mother continued to go. And I would get angry because my mother never made it to one graduation in my life. Not kindergarten, not elementary school, not high school. And so neither one of my parents, let me just say that, I was angry. You know, I would be angry with her. But when she came home, I loved her. I was happy to see her because my mother is such a people person and such a good spirit when she's sober. She's gonna walk into a room of 1,000 people that are strangers. She's gonna come out with 999 friends. It's just who she is. I always welcomed her. Even, you know, my grandmother got a county check for me. And I remember saying, you know, Mama, I want to give my money, you know, because my grandmother made sure I got my money from that check. She didn't use my money. She said, you have this much every month. This is yours. Well, my mom got out of jail. I'm like, can you give my mom the money? Can you, you know, your mother's going to spend your money. So like, no, but she said she's going to give it back. I wanted her to be in my presence. And I was happy when she was around. So even though I would get angry when she went, when she came back, I was like, yes, you know, my mom was home, you know. So I went through, as a child, I went through that back and forth. My mom, you know, she's pretty much done life on an installment plan. She's been back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I just remember the anger and the happiness, you know, it was rough.
Has that shaped your relationship with your children in any way?
I smother them. It has. I don't ever want to be missing. I always want to be present. I always try to teach them how to survive, because I didn't get that, because, you know, my mom was part of the 80s pandemic, you know, she used crack. So I didn't have the teachings that I feel that I probably should have had as a young lady. Yes, you know, I had my great grandmother and my great aunt from, say, kindergarten up to 6th grade. Then I went over to my grandmother. My grandmother worked, but there weren't a lot of lessons. It was more of a go to school, come home. There weren't teachings and lessons of life, or how to carry myself, or how I should speak, or, you know, how to open up a bank account, or how to fill out an application. I didn't have those lessons, none of them. And so as a parent, I try my best to teach them all of the things that I was not taught, everything. And also the street shit stuff too. Like, hey.
I know your son was young. How old was he when you got out?
He was 4.5. He was about to turn 5. He was about to turn 5.
And Betina, I don't think this question is gonna apply to you either, maybe because you didn't have as much communication with your children, but I'm still gonna ask it and give you guys the opportunity to answer if it applies. But when my father had to be in the feds, because we would go on family visits and we would be able to spend the weekend in Chino or in Lompoc.
That's the state.
And Lompoc, okay, Lompoc is the federal.
Lompoc is the feds.
Lompoc is the feds, and we would have a weekend, and he would have me lay on his chest, and we would read the newspaper, and then he would teach me. He would say, "You got to be a producer of things, not a consumer of things. What are you gonna create?" Like, he made me a hustler. You know what I mean? Like, that was his. If I had to name one lesson that he made sure he shared with me, and he took that opportunity through incarceration to try and coach me. Did you ever have that opportunity with your children to still coach or pour anything into them through your experience behind the wall?
When I was home, or once I was released?
Well, for you, I know your baby was 4, but I mean really from there, from being incarcerated. while you were incarcerated? No.
No, I didn't really get to teach him much,
Okay.
there, not at all. He was little.
Yeah.
He was really young. He was running around that visiting room, ducking under
Right.
tables, dropping off stuff, So no, not at all.
Amen.
And for me, even though I didn't have face-to-face contact with them like that, I did a lot of my pouring over the phone and in letters, because I was keenly aware of what I was missing, of what I didn't get when
Yeah.
I was coming up, and what I needed that was missing. And because it was missing, it landed me in this situation, right? So I was trying to, as best I could with the knowledge base that I had, that I was gaining while I was away, was pouring into them to a degree that they could accept it. And because it started way back then, it didn't just start once I got home. Once I got home, I became the mommy mentor, that I became everything that I needed in a parent, everything that I needed as a child, a teenager, an adolescent, a young adult. I became everything that I needed for them, because what they were not going to have to say is, I couldn't do this because my mom was in jail, or I couldn't do this because my dad died, or I couldn't go to college, or I couldn't have a car, or I couldn't, because these were our sets of circumstances. That was never going to be their answer to any of the questions posed to them. So after which I became everything I needed. And in the meantime, I poured as often as I could from whichever fullness I gained in the process.
Yes. Speaking of, building those relationships upon your release, my sister shares often that she remembers once my dad got out, she would have to go say goodnight to, our parents, and she'd be scared, like, oh, shit. Do I hug him? Do I kiss him? That weirdness, like what to do? How do I get to know him all over again? What was that experience like for you all, getting to know your children again, living in the same space as them? How did you rebuild? Let's start with Betina.
Yeah.
So for the older two, for me, it was absolutely seamless, because again, that foundation was there before I left. My youngest one, as Celeste said, she became like my mom's daughter. So she had a lot of my mother's idiosyncrasies and ways of being and mindsets that were not necessarily good. And so I had to overcome a lot with her. The older two, it was just our mindset when we come home. Most people that come home from from incarceration, they are usually the best employees in the world, because they feel like they have something, they've missed something, they got something to prove. They want to prove that they're going to be here, they could prove that they can be trusted, prove that they're valuable to society, right? And so I had this mentality of, okay, we got to get this, we got to do this, we got to have this, we got to we got to catch up, right? But my kids were in this lackadaisical phase. They were teens and preteens. And so they was like, girl, give me that game and quit talking, And so there was this lazy factor. And so for me, now when I reflect on what that time was like for me, I was always in this toggling this line between super happy that I have this second opportunity with them, and frustrated that I can't just pour my head, my mind into them and get them to have some, get at it about themselves. So there was always a bit of a struggle, but the love was always there. And because the love was always there, and my goal was just to prove to them that I'm never going to leave them again. And I never did.
Good. I love that. Thank you. Celeste, how was that? How was your adjustment to coming home to a 4.5-year-old who was raised by somebody else up until that point?
It was a good adjustment, because I was able to come into the home that he was in.
Okay.
I came home and I was able to stay in the house with his grandmother and his father. And then got an apartment a couple of months later, and he was with me. But the adjustment was what I said versus Nana said.
Oh, yeah.
Baby, and that adjustment is still maybe probably a year ago. Nana's name is like the big joker in spades. But Nana said, what did I say? he gonna throw down that big joker. But he doesn't just do it to me. Let me say that. He does it to myself and his father. Whenever we're saying it was like big joker, Nana. And so that was one of, my biggest, struggles. Or if I would say something to him, he's looking over at them and I'm like, hey, I'm mom, I need you to do A, B, and C. That it was a barrier, it was a barrier that I had to get through for some time. And then one of the other barriers was just learning who he was as a kid. It's just learning who he was, what he liked, what he didn't like, and then it was my first child, learning how to be a parent.
Right. Difficult,
learning,
even if you aren't incarcerated.
Right. Learning how to be a parent, and then being a first-time parent and getting out of prison, I was missing two things. One, I was not able to be his parent. And then one, I was missing, I hadn't had this life because I was locked down. So I'm trying to live and be a parent. And sometimes those things collided. I could not always do both of them. I may have wanted to go out of town, or I may have wanted to do this or do that, but I had to remember, like, wait, because I've been locked down. So I was like, I used to get into it with his dad, and he's like, you don't need to go out to dinner, you don't need to do this. And I'm like, it was like going from jail to house arrest. I'm like, whoa. I'm not on probation like that. I don't, I'm not on house arrest. And I want to go out with my friends for the night, and well, you need to be here with him. And so it was a struggle. Not that I was trying to go out every night, because I worked, like I said, I got a job literally 6 days after I came home, and I did get the job that I dreamed of. I wanted to be able to have a job that was a Monday through Friday. I didn't want a mall job. I didn't do that. I literally was able to get a job at an insurance company as soon as I got home. And so I had a regular schedule of a Monday through Friday. So that was a blessing, which was also a blessing that was kind of from his father. His father's friend, plugged me with a job. But that me trying to live in a space of freedom, and me trying to learn my kid, it was hard. It was hard.
But where are your children now? And how has this experience, Betina can't wait, and how has this experience shaped them?
So now I have two children. My Anthony will be 26 on May 6th. Wow. So like Tina said, it's almost 26 years. Anthony is how can I explain him? He is a lively, charming, debonair young man. If he comes through the door, you best believe there's a woman by his side. It might not be the same one, but he's coming through the door with one, like Noah's Ark. He's coming too. It's a pair. He's a good kid. He doesn't gangbang. He doesn't sell drugs. He has a entrepreneur's mindset. Even though his father and I fought him about, getting a job, because his, dad is an engineer, and was like, hey, you can get a job doing this. And $30 an hour. He's like, I don't want to work for anybody. I want to do party promoting. I want to do this. And so he has a mindset of an entrepreneur, which I just really got into entrepreneur, say maybe 2018. When he went away to college and came home after that second year, he was like, I ain't getting no job. I don't want to do that. But he started giving parties in high school. I remember he gave a party, he was charging the girls $2 and the guys $5. That boy made $1,800 as a senior.
Okay.
He get one night. So that's his passion. His passion is in the party life. So he's doing great. He doesn't have any kids yet. I couldn't be happier. Is he a little stubborn? Yes, all kids are. He wants to do it his way. He's the kid that when you say don't touch the fire, he's gonna touch it anyway and get burnt. That's him. He's not gonna take
your relationship. Does he respect you as mama?
Oh,
have y'all moved past?
Yes. He all the time, mama, you the GOAT. Mama, I love you. He plays the song Never Would Have Made It. He always plays that song. Sometimes he could be in his car and he'll call me playing it.
Right.
We are good. We are we're good. We're good now. Because he's grown and he's got the chicks, I don't get to spend as much time with him, you know, because he had his own place and he's out, but no, we are good. We don't, I think at one time he, you know, he brought out old photos because I think that he didn't really remember, but he saw these photos and he was a senior. And I'll never forget, he brought the book to us and he said, Mom, where were you right here?
Wow.
And apparently he had, it was a picture of us. I was in the feds. And he had asked his dad first, and his dad told him, you should go talk to your mother about that. So he came to me, he brought, and it was a photo album that his dad had put together of pictures we took there whenever we would be on the visits. And so, and he kept it at the bed so he can always show him. So when he got older, he came, he said, Mom, where are you on here? And I said, okay, here we go. You know, I had to explain to him, you know, that Mom went to prison. This is where she was. This is how it happened. This is why it happened. I had to have that conversation with him. Now, I will say, you know, he took it in and he tried to kind of use it against me, you know, a couple years ago. And I had to really, really like, boy, because he said one day, you know, I am because I was born in prison. First of all, you were born in a hospital. You weren't born in prison. Second of all, you didn't go into the system. You went right home to your daddy and your grandmother. Right. You lived in a house. You've never lived in an apartment. You've always had everything. You spent your summers in Hawaii, not even the country like I did with red dirt and ants. You've had a wonderful life. Knock it off. Right. And so I had to put him, he kind of took that, you know, listening to Dear Mama and Tupac, like, you know, holding on my mama in the jail. I'm like, boy, like,
knock it off.
your life wasn't that hard. Yes, I was gone, but you were very young. And yes, you know, you came to the visiting room. It wasn't the cell. We were in a day room. I was at a camp. It didn't look like prison. There was no gates. There was no barbed wire when you were, you know, coming to Arizona. You looked like you were just going up to a rec room. Right. And I just had to really put him back in line. Like, stop saying that. Right. Because your life wasn't hard like that, you know? Right. Yes, I was gone for that period of time, but, you know, I came home at 4.5. And before that time, you had a solid foundation. You were never moved around. You were never dropped off anywhere. You didn't want for anything. So
good for you, Celeste. Good for you for not letting him turn that into a story. And although I'm sure it was, you know, an experience, but let's holding on to the truth in your
I'm like, boy, maybe y'all go sit yourself down. I'm like, you know, your life is good. You had a great life, you know. I had my daughter a couple years after being free. She's great. She's her mama all over again. And as far as she's really witty and busy, and she too is an entrepreneur. I will say, so my daughter is, so you know how you got all your kids are different. Right. So I have one, her head is on a swivel. She pays attention to everything she picks up there. My son is like, oh, life is great. The world is great. No one's going to do anything to anybody. My daughter's the total opposite. Both good kids. My girl was a little firecracker, but I will say she's doing good. I'm proud of her.
I am too.
I'm proud of them both. Both. So
I'm proud of them too.
Betina, where are your kids and how's your relationship with them?
So our relationships are amazing. I have been intentional about building relationships and doing family things the entire time I've been home. Like we do family dinners all the time. I cook for every single holiday and get all of my family together in one house. They're all adults. They are, one is a teacher. One is we call her the Popo because she works for the federal government, traveling the country, doing her work. And then one is in music. He's an entrepreneur, has a publishing company and doing his thing. So I'm very proud of where each of them are in life. I don't have any grandkids either. So no kids. There were a lot of cycles that were broken that stopped with me as with Celeste. So that teenage pregnancy, I was a teenage mom. My mother was a teenage mom. My grandmother was a teenage mom. You know what I mean? And that cycle stopped with me. That incarceration, I was also a child of a parent that lived a life of recidivism. So my dad I probably never stayed free for 2 years at a time while I was growing up. I didn't really have a relationship with him at all, and I still don't. So my kids were never going to experience that at my hand. It took, you mentioned at the top of this conversation how you mentioned, do we regret? Are there any regrets for what happened? And I'm so proud of who I am and how I show up in the world, that I don't have any regrets. I understand, I'm very clear, I'm keenly aware that everything that I experienced was necessary for me to be Betina McCadney, the mother, the entrepreneur, the employer, the speaker, the author. To be all of this, that was necessary, because I would not be this person today. If I had gotten away with it one time, probably would have been a career criminal, because I'd seen that around me. Girl, please, if you'd have gave me the money and let me run away with it, I'd have done it tomorrow.
Right.
So,
Right.
so there are no regrets, and I'm so proud of who my children are, and I'm proud of the relationships that we have. I'm proud of what we've been able to build as a family, and that cycle of poverty has stopped with us. That cycle of worthlessness has stopped with me. That cycle of incarceration has stopped with me. The cycle of just not understanding money, not understanding principles and morals and values in life, all of that stopped with me. And so when I say I'm proud of who my children are, I am proud. I'm proud in the best way possible, but they are literally the light of my universe.
So y'all sitting there, I mean, I want to hear about the book. I want to hear about the interim housing, but I'm thinking about the woman or the man who is like, they got it all together. I want you to just, for a minute and a half, 2 minutes, talk to the person who is where you used to be, who is away from their children and didn't get it all together yet. You know what I'm saying? And being where you are might look far removed for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all don't look like y'all been through what y'all been through. Like, I'm having a hard time.
Oh no, we don't even have smoke on us for the fire that we walked through, child. We don't even have the smoke on us, but it took a lot of fight. Can I answer that?
Yes.
It took fight. It took fight. It took a belief. We had a fortitude in us, because I believe that one thing that solidified, I'm speaking to a group of actual freshly released inmates from one of my millionaire friends has an organization. He wants me to speak to these guys, right? But one of the main things that I want to get for them, a lot of times they think about what they don't have, or this is their situation, or da 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 da. Let me tell you something. Everything that you probably have experienced, I have experienced. And if I can do it, if I can get from there to here, and no, it's not easy. Nobody ever said it would be, but you have to have something. You have to dig deep, deep, deep inside of you and figure out what your why is. And when you figure out what that why is, let that be the driving factor for everything that you want to do and everything that you want to accomplish in this life. And my children were my why. They were my why, because I determined from the first day that I got arrested, I had to remind myself that it's not how you start, it's how you finish. This is not going to be the legacy that I leave. I'm leaving trust funds. Hello. I'm leaving legacy. I'm leaving wealth. I'm leaving something else. And I didn't care. At that time, I had the why. The how was not my business. All I was attached to was the why. And because I stayed from that day to this one attached to my why, I've missed steps. It's been hard. Girl, please, I haven't had a job in 7 years. I haven't had a job since 2015. I've been an entrepreneur since 2015. But hell, 5 of those years, I didn't have a car. I didn't have, you know what I mean? It was like, what people don't understand, they look at the right now, that you drive what you want, you live what you want, you got the employees. but you don't know the sacrifices that I've had to make to get to this point and to stand flat-footed on my feet and say, I did it with God. But how I did it was I aligned with my why, number one. And secondly, I aligned with my purpose. What I knew, I'm keenly aware that my story that I was so ashamed to tell for 25 years, that my story is the key to somebody else breaking free. Because if I can show you how I sat in the seat, probably worse than where you are, and if I can make it, if I can give you a shred of hope just to make it through today, then it makes everything that I've been through, it makes the shame or the embarrassment or anybody thinking they want to talk down to me because of where I've been, because baby, you probably can't touch me in real life. So you can talk if you want to, because this life don't owe me nothing. I'm real
Can
good.
I add something to that? Let me tell you something, Kenya. Tina said that when she was on the top bunk, I was on the lower one. She was right next to me. Tina said she was gonna do this when we were sitting in Sybil Brand.
Wow.
She said, because she used to read a lot. Tina, and it was a word that she used earlier. I'm like, Tina, what does that mean? She used to do the same thing when we were gone. She would be reading and she would be saying, and she was like, I'm gonna be speaking, I'm gonna be doing. She spoke that then.
Wow.
I promise you.
And that's the life I live now.
And that is what she's doing now.
Woo. Woo.
I have chills.
I have chills. Celeste, this question is for you. What resources were not available then that you believe should be available now for folks who are being released, for these new releases, for, we know in this housing space and the reentry space, there are resources becoming available to providers. What should we make sure we have lined up to support women and men who are returning home to their children and to their families and need to get on their feet?
First of all, is encouragement. So they are, or have been, I don't know what the protocol is when you leave, but when we got out, it was $200 at the gate and buy, right?
It's still $200 in the gate and buy.
$200 at the gate and buy. I don't know if maybe they should be doing this beforehand, but they should be doing, say, credit counseling, showing individuals how to fill out applications, or if not there, as soon as come home, some type of program or a part of your probation, because they want to put you on probation. They want to come pop up on you, see what you're doing. Help me. Show me how to sit in an interview and speak. Show me how I should present and dress for an interview. Show me how to research for these jobs or where I can research for these jobs. Tell me how to go and open up this bank account if I do not always know. Immediately show me or help me go and get my ID and my social security card in these things. And then first and foremost, because everyone doesn't have it, I was blessed enough to have a place to go, is give me the funding to be able to go into a place to stay. Not the halfway house, but into, if I have to go to transitional housing, if I do not have a family member to go to. That money should be available. They shouldn't have to search for funding to be able to pay for a bed in the sites. It's a setup for failure.
Right.
How do they do it? You give me $200 and I'm supposed to go find myself a place to stay.
Senator Sidney Kamlager is currently pushing a bill to increase that to, I think, $2,000 or so, because it has been $200 since, I think, 1973, which is wild. What can anybody do with $200 being released after they've already paid their debt, right?
Not to mention they coming from bum hell, like it's far, so they gotta get to.
You can't even get home with $200.
Even get home. You are right. Yeah. But Tina, is there anything you would add to that? I would,
it's definitely the educational factor. It's definitely the, and I feel that, I don't know why, I feel like this is something we need to start, because my thing is money mastery. I just believe that when you get the strain, when you get past being broke, not having enough resources, when you get past not knowing how you're going to pay the bills, how you're going to survive the month and all these things, once you get past that part, I believe that you can get the divine download for what you're supposed to be doing with your talents, your time, your efforts, your gifts, all of that, right? And so because that's my thing, I believe that it doesn't even necessarily, it definitely needs to happen for prisoners and people that are re-entering into society, but it needs to start earlier. We need to start teaching these kids money mastery, because if they don't know how to master the money that they have, if they're not able to take advantage of compound interest, they're playing a game that it's impossible for them to win if they don't have all of the right components and the knowledge necessary to actually survive today playing this financial game. And while, money isn't everything, to everybody, it does answer all things. The Bible says that money answers all things. And what that means is you can go to work, you can make your money all day, you can do all the things that you're supposed to do, but at the end of the day, you should have earned the money that you need to make your household run, and then you can rest and relax, right? And a lot of us are living in an existence of survival, which is what got me and Celeste in the situation that we were in. We were living that existence of survival, and a lot of that has to do with our lack of money confidence and awareness and literacy.
Good stuff, ladies. Let me ask you, is there anything I didn't ask you that you would like to share to someone, either the folks that have the ability to make resources available, or to those experiencing the justice system in some way, or to the children?
So I want to say one thing, and it's something that I heard from actually friends of mine, once I was home, and it used to rub me wrong. Like, I can't get a job because I have a misdemeanor, or I can't get a job because I have this. And I used to look at them like, ma'am, I was gone for 4.5 years. I don't want to hear that. I want people to go into the mindset of knowing that even though you have had some sort of criminal background, imprisonment, instabilities, you can still, don't take that as I can't do it because I have this. I can't. Once you get that I can't, and then that I can into your brain, into your mindset, into your belief, then you will. Like, you just have to not believe that it's impossible because you have a criminal background. There are so many things that you can still do. So if you remove that barrier that you're actually presenting to yourself, because yes, we do know that systematically over time, yes, people that have been incarcerated have been shunned jobs, and it's been hard for them, but it is still lots of opportunities. You are capable of making a way, even if you make your own way by creating your own path or your own, business. It is possible. I just want people to know that, to just believe. Don't give up. Just believe that it's possible. It is definitely possible.
I love that. Tina?
What she said. She literally took the words out of my mouth, because as she said, I spoke this life that I'm living way back when. I believed that it was going to be my life. I spoke it as if I knew exactly, and I promise you, I am walking what I spoke way back then. And so it's what she said was, be careful what you speak over your life. Watch your words. Watch the words that you allow to come out of your mouth, whether it's about you, whether it's about your capacity, whether it's about your ability, or whether it's about someone else's, whether it's about what's available. Because even while we're sitting here talking about what's not available or what resources need to be created, my mind starts turning to, I may have a big profile for business, but my philanthropic profile is slim, because I will give and help organizations that have boots on the ground. But when I think about it, maybe there's something that we can create that, or we can help support you in creating, to help these people learn the things. Even if I have to volunteer some time, I'm willing, because I remember when I needed, but I think the only thing that I had that a lot of people don't know that they have is the belief of my possibility. I believed that for those kids, I was going to do whatever it took to make sure that we had a roof over our head, that they never went to jail, that they never, all these things. It starts with your belief, your thoughts, your words, and then your subsequent actions.
I love it. Thank you, ladies. Betina, tell us about your book
Girl,
and where can people get it?
it's called Avenue of Purpose, and it talks about how I use finances to point people to purpose.
Oh,
And so it's really good. It tells my story again, because I worked, even though I was semi-successful, meaning I learned my trade in prison. I learned about dentistry in prison. I parlayed that dental career. Y'all see these teeth. I parlayed that dental career for 20 years, and it was good. It allowed me to be able to raise my kids, right? But I remembered when I had reached my ceiling in corporate America. And so this book tells about that transition from being an employee to being an employer. It tells the story about me stepping into the awareness of who I am and my capabilities and capacities. And then it gives practical and tactical steps for how anyone reading it can look at where they are right now, begin to improve that situation, starting with their credit, starting with their budgeting, or money allocation system is what I call it, starting with their credit, their budgeting, their saving, their retirement, their investments, and all these things. And then even coaching on the mindsets that some of us approach the conversation of money with, because I had all those same negative mindsets. Oh, we Black people, they don't get that, not for Black people. I had all those same things because there was one person around me that had money, and she wasn't a teacher. And so that's the book. It comes out Tuesday. You guys, you can find it on my website, BetinaMcCadney.com, which is launching probably Sunday night. The website is launching, so you'll be able to access the book on Sunday night from the website, and it'll be for 99 cents digitally for the first 2 days, because I'm gonna take that bestseller status.
That's right.
Champagne toast at my book launch party on May 7th on a rooftop downtown LA.
Well, I'm buying 100 copies, so just send me the link.
I will.
I'm buying 100.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you both for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. I really, really want to do this in person. So please expect my invitation to have this conversation again on another level. Maybe we'll mix it up, but I want to talk to y'all in person and hug your necks.
Awesome.
Okay.
I look forward to it.
And maybe even bring the kids to,
Yes. Oh my gosh. And let them talk.
And they are all characters.
Girl, please.
Yes, they are. Celeste, just tell us where we can find Free From Hardship. Is there somewhere folks can find more information if they want to support your organization?
So yes, there are two places. The website is freefromhardshipla.org. You can definitely find us there. Our Instagram is Free From Hardship LA, and my personal page is Live, Love, Laugh without the H today. Live, Love, Laugh today without the H. Sorry.
Got it. Okay.